Today's the day. I'm sharing my TBR for 2023 for the 1001 book countdown. Let's get to it. Hi everyone, I'm Sandy and welcome back to my channel. Today I have my 1001 book countdown TBR for 2023. If you're not familiar with the 1001 book countdown, I will leave a card up here for you where you can go and check out the original video where I go into a lot of detail about what I'm doing. It's the second video I ever made, so it's a little rough, but it's still out there. But basically what I'm doing is I'm reading books off of the 1001 books you must read before you die list and just slowly making my way through it. And as of my last countdown video, I have 898 books left to read. Very large number. One of the ways I handle that is every year at the beginning of the year, I pre-select 52 books that I like to focus on for the year, one for every week of the year. And today I'm going to share those 52 books plus some others that I'll talk about in a little bit. Sometimes it helps me to have a lower number that I can focus on that makes me feel like I'm making more progress. It also ends up as the lower number on my videos for the countdown. So if you ever wonder what that is, it's the current year read. So this year, in selecting my books, I did exactly what I like to do, which is go and shop my own bookshelves. And so I have 5 stacks of books here, quite a few of them on kind of all different size. I did not select every single book that I own though. And the reason for that is because I had a very large number of very long books. And one of the things I discovered in 2022 is I was not very kind to myself in the books that I had selected, because I ended up with 15 books that were over 500 pages and 8 of those were over 700 pages. And some of those were incredibly heavy, dense classics like War and Peace or Moby Dick or Kristen Laverne-Statter. And that's not even the full list. I also only had 7 books that were under 200 pages last year. So I'm correcting that this year, trying to be just a little bit nicer to myself. I ended up with only 9 books over 500 and only 3 that were over 700 pages. So hopefully more reasonable. However, one of the books was probably one of the longest books on the countdown. So I'm not, I'm a little nervous about that one. But the other thing that I did that was different this year is I went through and I looked for authors who have more than one book on the list left to read, and really focused on ones that had 3, 4, 5 or more books on the countdown, because I didn't want to end up in the last year having to read 7 Virginia Woolfs or 8 Charles Dickens. And so I made sure to select at least one book from every author who has multiples left that I haven't read. So it's a big mix of books. I also intentionally did not pick more than one book per author, except in one case, and you'll see it when I get to it. So that is kind of the methodology I use this year, a little different than last year or the year before that, but I have so much fun pulling this list together. It's like my favorite thing to do is pull lists and work on lists and check things off of lists. And so I get very excited at this time of year because I have a very big list. The other thing is I don't own all of these books, and I'm really going to try and utilize my library for the books that I don't own and not order more of the 1001 books. So we'll see how that goes as well. The 1001 Book Club will happen again in 2023. I did have a lot of fun in 2022, just kind of hosting that. It was my first year, so I think I learned a little bit and kind of working my way through how to do next year's. But I will be selecting 10 books again. The book club will start in February, and there will be no book club in August, just like last year. All of the books for the book club will be selected from the books that you'll see today. So if there's a book that you see on this list that you would love to read as part of the book club, please leave me a comment for that, because I absolutely take that into consideration when selecting the books for the book club, and that list will go up later this month. So there's also a Goodreads list out there for you for this for the 2023 list if you'd like to go and take a look at that as well. I'm nervous to share this with everyone. I don't know why. That's really silly. But the first book is Americanah by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I'm not going to say too much about the books as I go through all 52 because it will take way too much time. This is the only book that this author actually has on the list. The next book, The Green Man by Kingsley Amis. Kingsley Amis actually has 3 books on the list. Money by Martin Amis. Martin Amis has 5 books, which is why this one was selected. Then we have Alias Grace by Margaret Atwood, the last of the Bloomsbury editions that I own. Beautiful. Then we have The Music of Chance by Paul Auster. This author actually had more books on the list, but I only have 3 left to read. I've read several of their works already. Then we have J.G. Ballard, and the book that I selected was The Drowned World, and J.G. Ballard has 6 books on the countdown. Then we have Go Tell It on the Mountain by James Baldwin. This is the last book I have by Baldwin on the countdown. I have Perigorio. You can't see it from there, but that's this beautiful edition that I have. I will be doing this as a buddy read with Tiffany over Beautiful Minutia in the month of February. But this is, I think Balzac, this is the only book Balzac actually has. But look at that beautiful cover. Okay. All right. That's the first one. The next ones are this bind up by Samuel Beckett. This is the only author that will have more than 1 book on the list. Samuel Beckett actually has 7 books on the countdown. So yeah, but this is a bind up of 3 books. And weirdly, I only put 2 on the 52 list. I'm not sure why that is. I put Malloy and Malone Dies. The last book, which is called The Unnameable, I didn't include. I don't know why, but so I only have the 2, but this Samuel Beckett is the next one. I have Saul Bellow, and Saul Bellow has 6 books as well on the countdown. And for that one, I picked Seize the Day. And then we have Thomas Bernhard. Thomas Bernhard also has 6 books on the list. And the one I selected was Wittgenstein's Nephew. Very excited. I'm going to be reading my first Borges, and I'm going to be reading Ficciones. I have not read any Borges. They only have 2 books on the countdown, this one and Labyrinth. So very cool to be picking up this one. This is how I'm being nice to myself, everyone. I have this one, The 39 Steps by John Buchan. But look at that. Very cool. So that one should be good. There's a movie about this one too, an old classic movie that I really want to watch. But yeah, The 39 Steps. And I'm also going to be reading my first Italo Calvino. And the book that I selected is this one, The Castle of Cross Destinies. Calvino actually has 5 books on the countdown. It's very cool. This has lots of illustrations in it too, which is exciting. And I have The Awakening by Kate Chopin. Again, very small. That's how this one got selected. I have Joseph Conrad, and Joseph Conrad has 4 books on the countdown, and the one that I selected is called The Shadow Line. I have The Body Artist by Don DeLillo. I'm not sure if that's how you say that. Don DeLillo has actually 6 books on the countdown. I have read Underworld already, which is one of the chunky ones. This one, again, very, very small. For my Dickens book, because Dickens was the author with the most on the list, and I still had 7 left to read, I selected Great Expectations. So I'm imagining that this will be in October, but for Victober, but we'll see. And I have E.L. Doctorow, City of God, and they have 3 books on the countdown. So that's why that one got selected. All right. After that, I will be reading Dostoevsky. I have 4 left books that I haven't read yet, and the one that I picked is Notes from the Underground. Is it the shortest one on the list? Maybe. So that's the one I picked, though. The next one is a book I had never heard of before. I found the 1001 book list, and it is La Reine Margot by Alexander Dumas. I've read The Three Musketeers and The Count of Monte Cristo, but this will be my first time reading this one. This is probably one that I am so incredibly excited about reading. Anxious to get back to Dumas, so that's wonderful. I don't have any other books left to read on the countdown by Dumas. I have the Up to No Good book club pick for January, which will be Middlemarch by George Eliot. This is one of the longer books on the list. It definitely qualifies for over 500. George Eliot I have 3 books left. I actually own all 3, so you'll see those later again as well. But Middlemarch is going on the official list. After that, I have Like Water for Chocolate. I will be doing this as a buddy read with Britta Bowler. We just talked about this morning, actually, and so I think this is the book we ended with selecting for a January buddy read, but very excited about that one. The next one, I blame Gina Stanier for this one. Gina was kind enough to give me this book when she was unhauling some books when we met one time for a book shopping excursion, and the book is Jonathan Franzen, Freedom, a Novel, and it is kind of a big book. But yeah, this one is because Gina Stanier gave it to me. I will be continuing with Gaskell this year by reading North and South. Gaskell only has 2 books left for me to read on the countdown because I've already read Cranford. I have a Henry Green book. Henry Green has 5 books left on the countdown, and so I selected the book Loving. And then Graham Greene has 6 books on the countdown, and the one that I selected is Brighton Rock. Thomas Hardy is next. Thomas Hardy, I have 4 books left of Thomas Hardy to read, and the one that I selected for 2023 is Return of the Native, so I'm excited about that one. I have Herman Hesse, and the book is Siddhartha, and this is also because of Gina Stanier. She did give me this one. Herman Hesse actually has 4 books on the countdown, so I'm very excited. This will be my first one reading from this author, so excited about that one. After that, I have a Gert Hoffman book, which I don't remember why I selected this one. They only have 1 book on the countdown, and the book is The Parable of the Blind. And then we have A Chunkster, a massive book. This one, if I were predicting, this will end up in March for March of the Mammoths, and it is Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. I mean, this is big. The Goodreads says it's 1,463 pages long. It's not the longest book, though, on the countdown this year, but it is the second longest. Yeah, I've read The Hunchback of Notre Dame, and so this one, I'm nervous about this one, so we'll see how that one goes. We have Milan Kundera, and a book I'm reading is The Unbearable Lightness of Being. Kundera has 3 books left on the countdown, so that's great. Then I have a D.H. Lawrence book, and D.H. Lawrence has 5 books left on the countdown, and the one that I selected is called Aaron's Rod. I don't know anything about that. I'm also continuing on reading Primo Levi this year. I will be reading The Drowned and the Saved, and Primo Levi has 3 books left on the countdown, so that's great. And I will be reading an Ian McEwan novel. Ian McEwan has 4 books. Sorry, I keep looking down. My notes are down. Has 4 books left on the countdown, and so I will be reading Amsterdam this year. I have a great pick. I'm very excited. This is probably one of the books I'm most excited about, and it is A Fine Balance by Rohinton Mystery. I don't know much about this, but I've heard wonderful things about it. So yeah, there's that one. And I will be continuing to read Iris Murdoch this year. I read The Sea in 2022, so I will be reading The Black Prince. Very excited about this one. Iris Murdoch actually has 5 books left to read on the countdown, so it's good that I'm getting another one off the list. Oh boy, this one I had toyed with not including, and then Fraser Simon, over a springboard thought, said, oh, he would read it with me, and I'm regretting it already, because the book is The Man Without Qualities by Robert Muesli. If this was the only part of it at 700 pages or so, I would not be too worried. However, this is volume 1, and we have volume 1 and volume 2. The 2 books combined are 2,400 pages. That is a huge amount. So thank you, Fraser, for saying you'll read it with me. I'm very excited, but I'm very intimidated by this particular one. I've heard if you can get through it, it's excellent, but oh my goodness, this is a big book. So yeah, that's a lot. That's the longest book that I have on the countdown by far. The next book that I have is Flannery O'Connor. I have this bind up of the complete stories, but the ones that I will be reading are Everything That Rises Must Converge. There's about, I think, 8 or 9 stories for that particular collection, so I will be reading all of those. And then I have a book And then I have a book that is a carryover from 2021 that I didn't read. It's one of the few that I didn't get to, and it is Amos Oz, A Tale of Love and Darkness. This is actually one of the highest rated books on the countdown, so I'm excited to get to this one. I have a new to me author, which is this one, Georges Perec, and I know I'm saying that wrong, so yeah. I know I'm saying that wrong, but I will be reading A Void. This author has 5 books on the countdown, so it'll be good to dip my toes into this one and see how I do. I will be reading Wide Sargasso Sea by Jean Reese. It'll be my first time dipping into this. This author actually has 3 books on the countdown, so it'll be good to read this one. Plus, again, not very long. Happy about that. I will do my first time reading this. It'll be my first time reading this author. And I am nervous about it, and it is Midnight's Children by Salman Rushdie. Salman Rushdie actually has 7 books on the countdown, so I really need to get started with their writing. I'm nervous about this. I'm worried I'm not going to agree with it. So yeah, Salman Rushdie, I'm going to give it a go. We're going to try it this year and see how it goes. But this will be my first time reading this author. And I have another book because of Gina Stanier, but the book is The Accidental by Ali Smith. I know nothing about this one. I believe Ali Smith only has 3 books on the countdown and only one in the quartet series, the summer, spring, winter, and fall. So, and it's book 2, so that's not too bad. But The Accidental is the one that I ended up with this year. I will be reading Muriel Spark for the first time with The Driver's Seat. But look again at this. This is how I'm trying to be nice to myself. Muriel Spark has 4 books on the countdown, so that'll be great. I will be reading my first Anthony Trollope this year, and the one that I selected is Castle Richmond. The Barchester series is book number 6 is on the list. I don't know. Hopefully I can start reading that at some point as well. I don't know. The next book, though, is from Ivan Turgenev. The book I selected is called Spring Torrents. Turgenev actually has 5 books on the countdown, so it'll be good to get that one. I will be reading Ethan Frome by Edith Wharton. I read The Age of Innocence this year and very excited to continue on with that. Plus, it's not very long, and I have 4 books by this author to read, so that's great. I'm going to try. I have to get moving on this author, and it is Virginia Woolf, and the one I will be reading is To the Lighthouse. Virginia Woolf, I have 7 books of hers to read, and 1 DNF, I DNF Mrs. Dalloway, so I really need to dip into this one. I think I've only read 1, Orlando, and DNF Mrs. Dalloway, so yeah, To the Lighthouse we go. The next one is Native Son by Richard Wright. I love this very simple cover, but this will be my first time reading that author. As well, I will be reading an Emile Zola for the first time. Emile Zola has 5 books on the list, and the one that I found am able to read is going to be Nana. I wanted to read The Drunkard. I couldn't find it anywhere. I could find it in French. I don't speak French or read French. So Nana by Emile Zola. That will be, that is my 52nd official book on the list. So yeah, that's everything that I actually have signed up to read and any plans that I have. Lots of opportunity, like I said, for the book club in these. If you want one of these in the book club, please let me know. All right. The books I own that I didn't select. There's a few. I did not pull out Gertrude Stein's Making of American, which I do own, but I am not reading that next year. It's too big to combine with the other books I've already talked about. So I'm going to go through the other ones I have. And like I said, if you want one of these in the book club, please let me know, because I have been known to add or change my mind. So the first one is Lucky Jim by Kingsley Amis. So this is one of the other ones that he has on the list. I've heard is very, very funny. I am considering one of the months for the book club to do a reread for me of Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. I do really want to read this because I have Wide Sargasso Sea on the list, and I know that happens to be about the woman in the attic. I don't remember the woman in the attic in this book, so I really would like to reread this one before reading that one. So that one it's in play for a book club pick, even though it's not on the 52 list. I have, of course, my 2 other George Eliots. I have The Mill on the Floss and Daniel Deronda. So I had picked Middlemarch. Towards the end of the year, we'll see if I have time to fit either one of these in. You know, my optimistic brain thinks I will, but I have these 2. I have another monster, which is the Good Soldier Schweck. big book. That's why it didn't get put on the list, again, trying to be really kind. But if you really want it in the book club, let me know. And I have another Milan Kundera book, The Book of Laughter and Forgetting. I also have a Toni Morrison, The Song of Solomon. I have read two books by Morrison, Beloved and The Bluest Eye, I believe. So this would be the third one if I decide to pick it up in 2023 at some point. And the other Flannery O'Connor book that I have is The Violent Bear It Away. I was going to read this last January, didn't get to it. And so now here it sits. The other books that I have, this book I am very excited about. It didn't get on the 2023 list, but I'm struggling to not pick it up already. And it is called Cutter and Bone, and it's by Newton Thornburg. And the reason for this is the back of it says, Bone saw the killer, Cutter knew the motive. Now they are partners in a desperate enterprise comprised of one part blood vengeance, one part high-priced blackmail, and one part suicidal insanity. Neither they nor you will ever guess the payoff. So this is one that may get in the 2022 side. We'll see how the rest of the month goes. The other books I have is The Death of Ivan Ilyich by Tolstoy. Look at how small that is. That's why I picked that one up for like $2. So I'm happy about that. And then I have Fathers and Sons by Turgenev. I had picked a different one by this author, and then I found this one at the Half Price Bookstore and picked it up. So possible. Again, not super long, so we'll see how that goes. I also have God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater by Kurt Vonnegut that I could read. I did get another Virginia Woolf at Between the Acts that, you know, if I'm feeling very Virginia Woolf inspired, that I could end up reading. I do like how small these are. Jen, the librarian, if you're not familiar with her channel, I will leave it linked in the description below for you, is hosting an E.M. Forrester read along, one book every month. And there are 3 books that are on my list unread. One book that I own that's not on the list, which is Morris, which I want to say is Maurice, but I guess it's Morris. So she has a schedule of all of the months that the books will be read. So I am going to try and participate in that. The book that I have, the first book that I have for that is actually A Room with a View, but I don't remember the month that this is in. I have ordered the book that's in January. So I have 3 books that for E.M. Forrester. So we'll see if I make it through those. They're not super long, so it's possible. And I have a few books, a few series that I need to start at some point, but I don't know if it's going to happen in 2023. I said in 2022 when I went back and looked that I would like to try and start these. I didn't start any of them. I've had them for a while. The first one is The Romance of the Three Kingdoms. I have a 4-part set of this. This is the abridged version of it in the Penguin Classic Edition. It's probably one that I don't know when I'm going to ever get to it, but it's going to be tough. But that one, and then I still, of course, have my 3-volume set of the Arabian Nights. This is volume 1 in the Penguin edition. I haven't read any part of this yet. And of course, I still have Marcel Proust's Swann's Way, which is the first in an 8-part series. Yep, didn't start this one yet either. So that's what I have, both on the 52 list and the other books that I own. Let me know what you think. If you would like to read one of these with me as a buddy read, or you want to do a collaboration if you have a channel, please let me know as well. I love doing stuff like that. If you want a book as a book club pick, leave me that. If you're familiar with the 1001 book and you say, wow, I wish you were really reading this one this year, I'd love to hear that. Because I will change my mind without a doubt. But that's it. That's the 52 plus that I have scheduled for 2023. I think I like making the list more than I like reading from the list, but that's what I have for you. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, everyone, thanks. Bye.